So today I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing Caryn ZINN and introducing you all to Caryn ZINN. I'm a little bit excited today. Unbeknownst to Caryn, have been following you for a very, very long time, and your book with Professor Grant Schofield, What the Fat, was one of the first books I ever read to really, really help me understand this low-carb lifestyle. So, thank you so much for doing that and for being part of the summit.
Oh, you're welcome, and thanks for the invite. It's very exciting to be part of it.
Awesome. So do you want to start with telling everyone a little bit about you? I know most people will have heard of you, but from your perspective, a little bit about you, Caryn.
Sure. So I am a New Zealand registered dietitian, and my roles sort of cross over two areas. So I work in private practice at a clinic. So it's a sort of holistic clinic where we work mainly around nutrition. It's myself and another dietitian, but kind of more holistically around nutrition and lifestyle. And the clients that we see range from birth till death, sick and well, and everything in between, really. It's sports performance as well. So that's what I do in my clinic. I also am a senior lecturer at AUT, where I teach in the Bachelor of Sport and Recreation and the postgraduate programs there. And I've done my I do research there as well. So I have done my master's and PhD both in the area of nutrition. And I originally come from South Africa, so I'm a South African-Kiwi, and I've been in the country for about just over 25 years. I'm involved in the What the Fat series, as you mentioned, and also with a Precure, which is an organization which trains up health coaches and provides online training for various professions, really, and also delivers general health programs for free for people to hop on and join the health discussion, really. Yeah, so that's me, a little bit of my history.
Fantastic. So how did you personally come across the low carb lifestyle?
Yeah, so I've been a dietitian for a long time, since the end of 1995, and you have to say I've been kind of a loyal to the mantra for most of my career, and it's only really the last 7.5 years or so that I switched to being a low carb advocate. And there were a few things that kind of led me there. Mainly discussions that were being conducted around me by people that I respected, but also I wanted the conversation and the discussion to go away, because it had come up before as the Atkins diet in the 80s and everything, and of course, as a traditional dietitian, I was anti, and I didn't really have the right information. I thought ketosis was bad, those the usual things. So I kind of wanted to make it go away. And the only reason I felt I was able to do that was to just to be open-minded and delve into the science to find the science that would make it go away. And clearly I found something else. So, when you really read with an open, honest attitude and mindset, you see things that not only you want to see, but also things that you don't want to see, and you become a bit more open to them. So that was, timing is everything, and that must have been the right time for me. I remember it was it was December, so it was the end of the year, and I thought, once I'd sort of got to where I'd got to, I thought, this is going to be a problem. Like, it makes me feel really uncomfortable that now, when you see things, you can't unsee them. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I think I might have to change my profession and go into something else. So I was lucky enough to have that whole of sort of end of November, December, January to sort of consolidate it in my head and make a decision to go with it or go against it, and I went with it, which was the right thing.
So glad you did. So how do you find things over there in New Zealand? Do you feel, I mean, obviously you're part of the New Zealand Dietitians Association, and, we all know what Professor Tim Noakes went through over in South Africa. And of course, people here as well. I mean, not generally supported too much by our association here. Is it different in New Zealand? Do you feel very supported by what you do?
So interesting, in the beginning, there were some altercations, if you like. I was getting into trouble, getting some complaints sent into the dietitians board about me, some from New Zealand, one from the whole Australian board, actually, of dietitians. And we kind of went through a process of trying to work through those. That one of them even got through to the professional conducts committee, and I had to go through all the stuff and do all the stuff to work through it. But for the last 4 years or so, there's been nothing. So I think the way that Dietitians New Zealand handled somebody really standing up and speaking out, they handled it really well. They followed process with all the complaints. I mean, the complaints were ridiculous, really, but they followed process. And to be honest, it was actually quite a good process for me to go through, because it allowed me to look at what I was writing on social media and just be a little more careful in how I write the things that I write. So I actually think it was, not that anyone wants complaints against them, but I actually think it was a very worthwhile set of experiences to go through, because it really makes you question whether you should be doing this. And I decided that it was strong enough in my head to carry on doing this, to do it properly, but also to be tactful in how I write and what I say. And not change my mind on anything, but just be a little bit more careful about how I say things. And there hasn't been a complaint ever since. So I think New Zealand dietitians handled the whole transition really well, and now I feel that they are totally supportive. I mean, every year I get my practicing certificate, I do my continuing competency. I've just been audited this month as a dietitian, which is just a random audit that everyone gets, and I'm not hiding anything, putting down exactly what I'm doing, and it's feeling like a very supportive environment, actually.
Well, that's so good to hear, and hopefully that will filter over here a little bit more too. Yeah, I know. I was speaking to Louise about how with Precure, how they're really trying to come into Australia, and she said that one of their stumbling blocks was actually the what she thought was going to be the easiest, which was our personal training institute, becoming, getting it all in as part of the credits for that. And she said they just, and I said, well, I'm not surprised, because they openly say that it's dietary guidelines or nothing, you're not to sort of go outside that. So, she said she was quite surprised, because it just didn't happen in New Zealand. And so I suppose there's different areas, that might move forward quicker than others. But I mean, as you say, if you're confident in what you know, and you've got all that information behind you, there's no reason why you shouldn't. It's very interesting, though, what you were saying about how you've changed I suppose, the language around what you post on social media, because social media, it's huge now, isn't it? And it can be very tricky for a practitioner to know what they can and can't say. And
absolutely. And now I read my posts before I post them. I'm a Facebooker, really. I read my posts as if an old school kind of dietitian that wants to get me reads it, and if it reads okay, then I post.
Great advice. So moving on to your summit presentation. So of course I mentioned the What the Fat book, and you've got the What the Fast as well, which is fantastic. And Louise mentioned there's another one, What the Face, coming out soon too, which is which is awesome.
Gosh, I haven't even told my closest friends that.
Oh, she said it on our little chat in here.
Yeah, no, that's totally cool. Totally cool. No, it's out.
Well, good. But back to your presentation. So what is a little snippet about your summit topic?
It's not about the face, I'll have to tell you. It's about fasting and females. So writing What the Fast was a really good opportunity to get on top of the literature around fasting. And also we developed our own little protocol around intermittent fasting, but it really allowed, when you write a book, you've got to read kind of everything to then refine it to put it into a usable form. So that's a good base, and that was a few years ago now. And as we've sort of moved the last probably 2 or 3 years, I do hear people say fasting is not for females, alongside the statement that low carb or keto is not for females. And what I thought I would do is just put it out in the presentation. I'm not going to tell you what my kind of bottom line is, because I don't want to give it away, but I will tell you about the evidence around fasting for females and some of the physiological considerations, as well as some of the take home. So a little bit of theory in there, not too much to bamboozle everyone, because physiology is fairly complex, and some real practical take homes for females who are fasting, but also for practitioners who are working with females who are fasting.
Fantastic. Well, I won't ask you any more questions about that. We'll just have to say everyone's got to register and watch Caryn's presentation. But last question I just wanted to ask you is one I get a lot, and just your take on whether low carb is sustainable or not.
Yeah, so I absolutely think it's sustainable. I think it's as sustainable as anything else could and should be, if you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you like what you see and how you feel. So I think it's unfair and unprofessional for people to say that low carb is not sustainable. When you look at, I don't think low carb is extreme at all. I think that keto is extreme. And I think you need to examine which you do and why. And if the reasons why you choose to do something are really strong and the benefits are really profound, then I don't see why they wouldn't be sustainable. I mean, we live in an environment where access to toxic food environments is everywhere. And every now and again people slip, and that's fine, that's life. But getting back into it and focusing on what you're doing and why you're doing it and the benefits is something that can absolutely make it sustainable. I mean, if you look at the classic comparative, there is looking at people who become vegan, and you could say, is veganism sustainable? Well, some could argue it is, some could argue it isn't. But if you look at the people who do go vegan, they tend, and I'm generalizing here, but they tend to go there with such a staunch kind of philosophical backing that they're doing that, and only that is what they will do forevermore. So it becomes sustainable. So again, just to kind of reiterate, if it works for you and you know your why, very cliched, but if you know your why and you are clear as to why you're doing it, and you're clear that it makes you feel good, then absolutely it's sustainable.
Great answer. So for you yourself, with your evolution in eating this way, has it changed a lot? Have you found that you've adjusted? Do you sometimes go down to keto? Do you say all just low carb? Do you not even think about it anymore, and you just is it intuitive eating every day, or?
I think in the beginning it was, obviously there was a change. I used to have toast for breakfast or cereal for breakfast, pasta for dinner, that kind of stuff. And the change initially was a change, but those things have never come back. I'll have to say I do have a piece of toast every now and again. Absolutely. I don't cook pasta at home, not because I want to and I miss it, but it's just I just got used to cooking other things. I think the difference for me compared to a lot of other people that have got into low carb is that thankfully I don't have any chronic conditions that I know of, and I didn't need to lose weight. So you could say, like, I'm insulin sensitive. I don't really need to be eating low carb, but I really believe that it's a better way of eating. It lends itself to a whole food philosophy. I mean, if you truly eat whole food, whole unprocessed food, it's going to be lower in carbohydrate and higher in healthy fat anyway, and moderate to maybe a little bit high in protein, depending on what you're choosing. So I think for me, on a daily basis, I'm very same. I like routine, but within my routine, I've got lots of variation. So it's sort of intuitive. During the week, I kind of just get on with what I normally get on with, and then on the weekend, I'm just not so strict. If I go to someone's house and I feel like something that's got carbs in it, I'll have it, and I don't have any problem with that. I would never say that I have a particularly high carb diet ever, but it's just become the norm. As far as keto goes, there might be some days that I'm naturally lower in carb, and maybe some of the days where I intuitively fast, I would be probably keto. But really, I would only stay in keto for a month if I decided to do a keto stint for a month. It's not something that I do regularly at all, just because I find it a bit more of an effort, and what I do actually works for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, and again for your time to do the summit. I really appreciate it, and can't wait to see it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All the best with it.